Welcome to the show, motherfuckers.
What the flock? Guys, there are over 100,000 automatic license plate reading cameras around the country right now tracking your movements, and people are rightfully angry about this, and it's taking over the news. What are we going to do about it? It's a huge issue. We're going to go through all of what flock cameras are, why people are upset, why people support them, and what we can do to preserve our right to privacy in this country. I'm joined by David Rand. How you doing, David?
Doing fantastic. Not as doing as well as your hat. You're looking handsome, dude.
Thank you so much.
Handsome as
I'm glowing.
Yes, I mean, some genius found a way to put that beautiful, beautiful logo on a hat.
That's right. It's a group of geniuses, and they're good friends of ours. Revved Up Promo actually put this beautiful patch on this hat, and it was designed for an organization that is equally esteemed, David Rand's very own Build the Dream, Land Liberty Movement.
Yes.
That's right.
It's such a cool logo. We were like, this is a clothing brand.
Absolutely.
It looks so cool. And so we went to Freedom Fest, did our whole thing, and had a great time. And we did a sweepstakes for the hats, and we got all these hats now. So we got swag, baby.
That's right.
Swag and plans for more swag.
That's right.
So if you want some swag, go to revveduppromo.com and get yourself some awesome swag.
Absolutely. And our newest sponsor, Young Americans for Liberty, is an organization that you have to be a part of if this topic of flock cameras or anything else that's infringing on our liberties is something that gets you fired up. It's not enough to just sit and listen to our podcast. You should do that. Don't get me wrong. But after you do that, you got to get involved and you got to do something about it, and you got to connect with people and network and get to be a part of an organization that is actually advancing these movements on the ground, and that is Young Americans for Liberty.
100%. You know, they're doing a press right now on flock cameras. They're all over the internet doing content, driving attention to it, and then driving people to YALCON. And if you go to YALCON, you will have the opportunity to get real training from people who are making a difference on the ground in your state, as well as listen to awesome speakers from Senator Rand Paul to Vivek Ramaswamy to Dave Smith, Spike Cohen, Afro Man.
I can't believe Afro Man's going to be there. I want to go to YALCON. I want to go to YALCON.
You know, Matt Kibbe, the great Tom Woods, Larry Reed, all kinds of awesome numerous states legislators who are doing great work in your state, where you can network with them and find out how you can do that. Now, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how the states can respond. At least we want to get there. I have a lot of thoughts. If we're going to implement those thoughts, we need people on the ground who are driving attention to this issue and driving the real policy process. And that's something that you can do. And you can get trained to do it at YALCON.
That's right. The links to both Join YAL, which you should do, become a member today, and go to YALCON. The links for both of those things are in the description below. Check it out.
All right. So what is a flock? What the flock, bro?
What the flock, dude?
What the flock?
What the flock are we talking about here?
Well, I guess I'll go flock myself because I got no introduction.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we forgot about Bennett's here, everybody. That's what happens when you abscond to South America for a while. I thought he was on a CIA op. He was down there to overthrow a democratically elected government or something like that.
Yes.
I don't know if they were democratically elected, so
it was a slight coup, just a moderate coup. No. Yeah, welcome back, Bennett. How was your trip?
it was good. And I figured after you guys having Dave Smith and Joe Kent on, I'd come back and totally halt any positive momentum.
Not at all true, Bennett. We love having you around, at least to to keep us in line, keep us in check, and make some jokes once in a while.
But wait, there's more. We have an announcement to make.
Oh,
yeah. So this weekend you got married, and I wanted to be able to play the thing, and we can't. But congratulations, buddy. We're very excited for you.
Thank you.
Can you do it?
Oh, hold on. Give me a second.
Woo!
Hey, there it is.
Some poor woman somewhere took pity on our boy. It's like gingers are a dying breed. We need to keep them moving. We got to keep them alive in our gene pool, and throwing you a bone. So.
Yes, my dear sweet wife, thank you for throwing me a bone. Going to be throwing one right back at you, babe. Okay.
Now we're doing it. That's a lot of false starts. It's like the end of Lord of the Rings over here. But here we go. What the flock is a flock camera?
Oh my gosh. Well, this is actually very interesting technology, okay? Because these automatic license plate readers have been around for a little while in different forms, right? Like you've got the speeding ticket cameras that you can get. There's of course all over Europe. They've become very ubiquitous across the United States, more in urban areas. But this is something different. Okay, so these things are solar powered, motion activated cameras, and they sit on every street corner in some major cities and all over the country. There's, as we said in the intro, over 100,000 of them nationwide right now, and many other companies that are doing it, not just Flock, too.
I think to understand the growth and how radical it is, and you know, when we look at the video, which we can bring up here in a second, and just see like how much they've exploded, you have to understand their comparative advantage, which in the marketplace is like traditionally license plate readers have been around for a minute, right? They're not, what it used to be is like a local government is like buying the camera and installing it by like hardlining it into an Ethernet cable and running power to it. And it's got, you know, infrastructure problems, and it's a higher barrier. But these bad boys, stick them in the ground, power on, you know, and then they have, you know, 4G or 5G.
Right. And the company, Flock Safety, actually leases them to governments, as a lot of the vendors do, right? So it's a fairly low barrier to entry. All you got to do is say, send on the dotted line, pay your lease fee, and you get these cameras all over the place. And the idea is they're going to help stop crime, right? Because they're tremendously powerful, capable cameras. So not only can they read your license plate at like from 75 feet, if your car's going 100 miles an hour, they can also detect dents in your vehicle, read bumper stickers. Do you have a roof rack or not? What color is the vehicle? All these things designed to be able to profile individual vehicles in the case that they don't have a license plate to be read. And of course, the pro of this is that if you're committing a crime, a legitimate crime, they want to be able to track somebody down even if they've removed the license plate or whatever. But it also raises some serious privacy concerns. Right.
So I've heard that, and this has been in the data center fight, that the only reason we have these data centers is to run Flock cameras. Obviously that's true, but are they AI powered? Is that the understanding? Is that this is an artificial intelligence sitting behind the camera assessing things, or is it more algorithm to AI is, as we've learned by Discord, thank you our Discord to really hammering me on the AI episode. I loved it. Keep it up. Was that algorithms to AI are kind of a continuum, right? Sure. So is this like a super smart AI or a more simple algorithmic AI that's just good at taking that car moving and being able to extract the license plate, untwist it, you know, so that it's not at an angle, so it's straight, and then read the letters.
I think it's a lot more than that, right? So what my understanding of it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Internet, you're very good at that, is that when the data is ingested, it's shot through the cloud, right? And it's stored on a centralized server, and a particular jurisdiction can allow for that data to be shared to other jurisdictions, right? So one PD can say, we're going to allow all the other PDs in the United States to access this, or just nearby towns or whatever. And they agree to those sharing terms. And then anyone in any of those PDs that have access to this database can search for a term like, red Toyota with a roof rack, and find images of a red Toyota with a roof rack.
And that doesn't...
and people as well.
Yeah, that does indicate some intelligence, right? So if you have like an eyewitness that's doesn't see the license plate and says it's a gray, SUV, then it can look at all the different gray SUVs even without having to like grab the license, reference the car registrant to it says SUV. It can just look at it and say that's an SUV.
Right. And you say, oh, it has front quarter panel damage on the driver's side.
Right.
It's detecting that vehicle has damage.
It does indicate quite a bit of intelligence there.
Yeah. So very, very smart. This whole idea is the sort of defining feature of Flock. It's called vehicle fingerprint, and it comes with some serious concerns, I would say personally. And then the other side of it is it's not just vehicles anymore either. They've got the Condor camera, which actually moves around and can track people, can track movement when you move into frame and into the field of view and out of the field of view, and that creates some serious questions for people.
But
right?
Joseph, I heard that they only track the cars, right? They don't track people. So I don't know what you're talking about, silly goose. That can't be true.
Well, it's funny. They talked about they don't actually even, their cameras don't even track. Their head of communication said, oh no, we're not tracking anyone, except their training videos say, we just tracked somebody from here to there and it worked great. Anyway, yes, here's a great clip to demonstrate the tracking capabilities of these cameras.
This is a Flock camera known as a Condor. Unlike the Falcon license plate reader camera, you'll notice this does track the movements of people. whether or not it was designed to specifically track a person. You can see right now, in real time, no matter which way I move, the camera moves with me. And this video is sent right back to the police department.
To alert you when it sees human movement, and it will actually acquire and track that person as they walk, or people.
When I walked down the path and I moved, the camera followed me.
There's an object detection feature that you can set up. It's called Guardian mode, that allows the camera to just know if there's movement from a person in the screen. It is not tracking where you're going to go, where you're going to leave, or you're going to start and stop.
These started popping up.
Wait. This guy's cutting hairs, man. It's not tracking people. It's tracking objects.
Yeah, you're just an object now. Congratulations. That's what Flock Safety thinks of you.
Well, it's its ability to determine the difference between him and a leaf that matters. So, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing's just out there tracking pigeons.
Yeah, just
local PD's like, the fuck? Why did we pay for this thing? It sucks.
The artificial intelligence is just like pigeons. It's just like, wow, this is the pigeon drama because it's just stuck in one place.
Yeah.
Like, that pigeon's an adulterous pigeon. I've seen it going around with all the other pigeons.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So
Some real.
And the other one. Okay. So tracking. So I'm sure what they're saying. The other fine hair is, we're not tracking you because if we pick you up in intersection A and B, we don't know where you went in between. We just know you're at A and B. So it's not tracking. Is that the fine hair they're cutting?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Well, that's and so obviously what makes it utilitous to the police is the tracking.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, that's where you kind of want it, is someone robbed a person, got into a car and is driving, and you know they're at A and B, and so you can make a reasonable deduction that they're going to C or something in that direction. You know they're heading.
Exactly. And later in this video, they show those training videos that we referenced, and the person on the webinar or whatever is saying, we were able to track them across like several locations throughout the city. We knew their direction of travel. Like, that's the value prop of this product, is to know where someone is going. And that's why the information sharing is so important, right? Because if someone's, headed towards your town or whatever, like, the communication lines are open, like, you can know this person's going from here to there, they're headed towards you. Like, and they can, one jurisdiction where they started could, if they have a sharing agreement with the next town and the next town, they could just continue watching this person travel across these jurisdictions. And the interesting thing to me, go ahead, Bennett.
I was going to say, the spokesperson also says in this same video that Flock helps solve 700,000 crimes a year. So obviously they're using tracking.
Right.
To do this.
Yeah.
Right. Now, granted, just as a caveat here, that is internal reporting from Flock itself. We don't know if it's that high or if it's higher. He did say in this video that those were just reported crimes. There may be others where Flock was a component that, it wasn't reported as being a source of evidence.
What I assume is that there's an internal reporting system where when a court is drawing upon Flock, they tag that, right? Flock footage.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can total those up.
Right.
That's what he means. So it could be that Flock was part of an investigation, but didn't wind up in the court side of the prosecution.
Sure.
Because it wasn't the strongest evidence. Prosecutors do that all the time in order to eliminate evidence.
Yeah.
On the person tracking side of it, you could kind of understand that from the point of view of a lot of physical assaults happen in places that are away from roads and other people, right? So if you want to make a trail someplace that people like to run on safer, you have a camera there that could track someone running to make sure if they're attacked, it could be like, oh, someone's being attacked, and flag that.
Yeah,
but that's not how it works.
Well, no, and that's not how reality works either. Because, as Tucker Carlson made on the latest episode of his show, where he interviews a guy who is focused entirely on this topic, prisons are highly surveilled, but prisons aren't safe. Prisons aren't low crime.
Well, it is full of criminals, so it might be no matter somebody else.
Maybe, maybe. But surveillance doesn't stop crime. Surveillance helps you solve crimes.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So I assume I know how this podcast is going to go. Is that we're all civil libertarians. We're all going to be pissed off. But in order to have some fun, I'm going to try to steel man the opposite side.
Great.
Just now. How about that? Is now the time to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. So do you know what our actual prosecution rate is for crime in the United States? Like
1%.
how many crimes actually get to a conviction?
1%.
No, it's more than that.
I was going to say like 9.
It's around 15.
Okay.
It depends on the crime, right? Obviously, flock cameras that aren't directed at people and aren't everywhere aren't going to be able to solve all crime, but it's particularly good at solving automobile theft. And and that's true, what they claim is that it's somewhere like 20% boost in being able to detect automobile theft, including let me continue the steal, man. A case where a woman got out of her car, kid was still in the car, it was left idling, someone jumped into the car while she was still there, hadn't got her kid out yet, and took off. They were able to catch that guy really quickly because of a flock camera.
Hey, that's fair. I'm not saying that there are not good uses of flock cameras, right? And we all want to live in safe communities here. Like nobody here is, I'm not trying to say that we should just have an absolute free for all. Actually, maybe sometimes I am saying that.
Libertarians, let me tell you, people, libertarians want to live in a free for all.
Maybe don't leave your kid in a car unlocked while it's idling. I don't know. Well, maybe that's a crazy thought.
No, it happens all the time.
I'm sure.
Like that's parenthood. Sometimes the kid is asleep, and or you're literally just going around to get the kid because they're stored on the opposite side. Someone gets in. Like
that's fair. Okay, that's a crazy.
Sometimes the kid's a pain in the ass, and you want to just leave them there. Also,
yeah.
Someone please come take this kid.
You don't. No, not that. But it's just like I don't want you around me for the next 10 minutes. Stay in the car.
Sometimes you gotta step out, smoke a dart, and just listen to them.
So you stand next to the driver's door with your hand on your 9mm, and you smoke your dart, and then you get on with your life, and your kid is safe.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's have we finished? What is a flock?
I think so.
Okay. Well, so people are mad about it. Okay. So why are people mad about it? I'm going to return to my steel man in a little bit, but let's move on.
Sure.
So, company is named Flock. It's had tremendous growth. We haven't gone over the growth of the cameras. Let's do that first. Let's do that first. So, Bennett, could you bring up that? And
I think that this map really well illustrates the concern that a lot of people have over these cameras because the ACLU has said that Flock is, quote, quietly building a nationwide mass surveillance system and a, quote, invasive digital dragnet.
Sounds like fundraising letters to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Steelman. Appreciate that.
Keep in mind, so down here, this starts the beginning of 2024. So this is in 2.5 years.
Zoom in a little bit. There's a lot of ocean in this video frame here.
I know, but I want to get Hawaii too.
But they're recording the dolphins.
Flock cameras in the South Pacific. Okay, here they go. And you can really see them start to originate around major metropolitan areas. It gets really big right around early 2025. And then, you can see it's almost, it's
really filling
the beginnings of some kind of,
Yeah, so that's the end.
Very steep.
You guys are good up in Montana. Montana's pretty good.
I got reasons for that. Thank you, Daniel Zolnikov. But yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to our reforms and what we think can make things better.
Right.
We'll do that towards the end. So hold on for that part.
Definitely do. So I think the big concern here, right, is the mass surveillance piece, right? Like the same problem that civil libertarians had when we learned through the Edward Snowden revelations that the NSA was quietly, recording all this information on Americans without our knowledge, right? The same thing is happening here, and there's even less constitutional protection because it's a private party that's doing the collection, despite the fact that private party is contracting with your city or your police department or whatever, effectively making them pay your tax dollars to collect your information. So you're effectively paying your city or state or whatever agency to spy on you.
Yeah. Under the guise that it's supposed to solve crime.
Correct.
Right? And the question is whether or not these are being narrowly used to do that, or are they doing other things?
Right.
But we know they're doing other things.
We do know they're doing other things.
What other things are they doing?
Well, gosh, we've got a little bit of a list here. So we'll go through some of these quickly. So there was one in May of 2025 where a Texas sheriff's office searched 83,000 cameras across 6,800 networks nationwide, including abortion legal states, for a woman suspected of self-managed abortion.
Whoa.
And the logged reason was, had an abortion, search for female. That's what they searched for.
Wait, so that's the reason for, so just to be clear for listeners, so most agencies establish a use process when you're using these things.
Sure.
That will be governed by state and local laws. So the state and local laws are the vector of attack if you want to reform this process beyond just getting rid of the cameras altogether. Right. We can discuss whether or not that's the policy aim or not. So what they will determine is based upon how the agencies define it. So many will have either like it's for this case number, which is a relatively strong tracking thing. For example, you are actively investigating a murder case, so you enter that case number in, and then you put in the thing that you're doing, what you're looking for. So this is in prosecution of a warrant, prosecution of a evidence or something like that. And then you can plug in what your search query is, and it doesn't work without those things. Right. That way, the log, which is the greatest amount of accountability within the system, is that the system tracks all the queries and who made those queries. So you log in with a unique ID, officer, whatever, put in my unique password, and then when I'm doing my queries, it's tracking that so that it can be used in the accountability process on the back end if there is some.
Yeah, and it's good that they do that because the Institute for Justice documented 20 plus cases of officers using automatic license plate reader cameras to stalk romantic partners and exes.
Dude.
Yeah.
I read one where this guy who was doing that, made up a third of all flock search queries in his jurisdiction. like this guy's just spinning all day. Where's she at now?
Was he in Killeen? Was he in Killeen, Texas? Because that one's out of control.
Yeah, it might have been this one.
Well, there is one here. One officer ran a woman's plate 400 times. That sounds like
that might have been that
guy, which is crazy. And then
so you could just see it. What did that woman do to that man? You know what I mean? I'd
be more concerned about what that man did to that woman.
Yeah, right. It could be both ways, but I'm just saying, this guy was woo. Something happened and he was obsessed.
To steelman his side. Maybe he was just looking out for her. He was just concerned with her safety.
New boyfriend's very sketchy. I feel like we got to keep an eye on him. That was half Trump there. I don't know why I did that.
You got to keep an eye on him. Yeah, gosh. Okay, so the officer abuse thing is a huge question mark, right? Because there doesn't seem to be a ton of accountability there.
Well, and going on your Snowden story is that we know that was happening in the NSA too. And there was stories that came out about abuses of these things that they were able to tap into the cameras of ex-lovers and things like that were, very disturbing for people to find out that, you could have somebody who was a contract with the NSA that obviously all top secrets, so you would know that they were that, and they would have complete access to your potential laptop with what he called turnkey tyranny, which is that these processes are supposed to go through the FISA court, but because of the permissiveness of the international FISA court, they are able to get around all of that and basically do this with just the click of a button, right? Basically, have you gone to the FISA court? Click yes. Now I get to do it, right? With no accountability within the system at all.
Right. But that's different though too, because the NSA actually still in theory does require a warrant, however easy it is to get. These don't, because it's a private company, and it's the third party doctrine, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah, right. And third party doctrine is where if the government can't spy on you, but if you have another company do it and they purchase the data, they can. Now, that's been very controversial since that's been, and basically we got there because of reforms from Snowden, right? Snowden comes in, makes the big shakeup. There's some reforms in subsequent years that try to bend these in and make it less impactful on Americans. Now, the international foreign surveillance is still very much there, and that's how they get around a lot of these things and make it difficult.
Yeah.
But once they got to that place is when they started purchasing data that also included American data, and that's what's firing people up.
Yeah, for sure. And just to clarify the third party doctrine for people just a little bit more, basically it says that any information you voluntarily hand over to a third party, like a phone company or a bank, or I guess in this case the way it applies is by virtue of just driving around, you're voluntarily handing over your license plate data or your vehicle make and model and bumper stickers
because
to Flock because you're in public. Yeah. That jurisdictions can get that information without a warrant typically.
The argument is probably something like, and I think this is correct, is probably something like if an officer was sitting on that same corner, right, or any individual was sitting on that corner, because you're in public, they would have a right to note your presence.
Yes.
And especially a police officer would have a right to write down your license plate and say, oh, that guy was here and he looks sketchy. That would be that's always been legal. And so they're seeing it as an extension of that. Now, the court cases seem to suggest that at some juncture of surveillance, that's no longer true.
Right.
Which is a strange line, you know what I mean? Because it's not asking the real question, which is, what is the balance of power between liberty and security that we're talking about here?
Right.
The court kind of refused to actually address that. Instead, they treated it like a policing function or a policing, like an agency power matter.
Right. Exactly. And there's a lot more to that we'll get into when it comes to like the constitutionality and like the court cases around it. Interestingly, there have been implications of flock cameras used in ICE raids as well. So ICE doesn't directly have a contract with Flock, but an outlet called 404 Media found that 4,000 plus lockups run by local police on ICE's behalf tagged immigration or ICE warrant, which kind of gave them this weird side way around, doing these different ICE raids. They're using the Flock camera network through local police to look for illegal immigrants.
So is this an agency agreement, or is it them just saying, hey, do you know any illegal immigrants that we could pick up? And then they do an investigation and
it seems to be like,
over?
It seems to be, based on my understanding, sort of an informal agreement between ICE and local PD that's willing to support them. And granted, a lot of local PDs are not, and the governors or mayors are requiring their police forces to not comply with ICE and things like that. There's a lot of controversy around that.
Right. I think in general, right wingers are in favor of this. Right?
I would say so.
Like if you're going to have the power of total surveillance, use it to find bad guys and get them out of the country if they're not supposed to be here.
Right. And I think, again, go ahead, Bennett.
I just had a question. Does ICE need to admit, and does Flock need to admit whether they partner with each other? Like, do they have to be transparent about that?
It probably depends on the jurisdiction, right? So in some states, like if you sign an agency agreement, you have to publicly declare that. I'm not sure if that's true for everywhere.
Okay.
Interesting.
I was just because on, so I'm going to just pull it up real quick. So it says most of the network is hidden. Of 6,400 plus agencies using Flock, only about 900 run a public transparency portal. So that's why I was asking. I was like, do they need to disclose whether they communicate with one another?
Interesting. So this is a question of how many of the nodes within the Flock network are actually sharing their data with other agencies.
Right.
Yeah, and it seems like a large majority are not.
Yeah,
clearly,
like only 900 out of like 6,500, you said?
Yeah, basically.
That does suggest to me it's probably a public policy question. What I was shocked about looking at the question is just how many few states and localities have done any amount of legislation to govern license plate readers in general. That Flock camera is just any license plate reader that we've had for a while, at least a decade for some places. At least in Montana, it's been around a decade.
Yeah.
And I imagine longer in other states because we're always like 5-10 years behind. That's what makes us great. We're still in the 90s all the way up to not too long ago.
like we didn't have like required real ID until like last year.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've got my license till 27, so I'm just waiting till the bitter end, hoping that we can somehow push back on it.
Yeah, but these policies are usually what govern the amount of transparency you have, because there's not a lot of reason for executive branch agencies to want to be public, right? It just exposes them to lawsuits. You need a legislature or a court to usually enforce this on an agency.
Yeah, absolutely. There have, interestingly, been some rogue installations where Flock is putting up cameras without the required permitting. It's not been a ton, but in 5 states, some state DOT, Departments of Transportation, have barred Flock from new installations. Evanston, Illinois, for one example, ordered removal and then found that Flock had reinstalled cameras without permission. So you got this like rogue actor thing going where it's like this private company is just like kind of doing whatever it wants.
Well, that
in
doesn't
certain states.
Sound smart. Like even from the company's point of view, right? Because if you get caught, which they did, that's a terrible public appearance.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like the only way Flock has any amount of credibility is to the degree to which they are governed by the democratic process and the laws of the state.
Right.
Right. So if they're, it's hard to believe that they would do that. I mean, could it have been a mistake?
Yeah. Process errors.
Seems more likely. I mean, it's a ginormous company growing very quickly. So
it could have been a mistake. It could have been a mistake.
But could also not be,
Right.
I mean, like, don't put it past any large, powerful organization to do something that they shouldn't be doing. right?
And I think that's a lot of people's concern for sure. For sure. Yeah. So now we have people taking it into their own hands and starting to take these cameras down themselves or disable them in certain ways. And a lot of really humorous accounts expressing to their audiences on Instagram and X and elsewhere how to quote unquote help flock cameras by applying certain materials to your vehicle or your license plates or, other things to do with the cameras themselves. Wink, wink.
Do we want to watch that? I
Yeah.
don't think Brennan actually has that video. He didn't link it.
Oh, gotcha. Well, let's just let's look at the compilation of the
Let's go ahead and mute
destruction.
it. Go ahead and mute it, would you?
Yeah.
We'll describe what's happening.
Yeah.
All right. This is a guy talking about what he wanted to get active. He wanted to do something about it, and so what he decided to do was start to put trash bags over them. That way, he's not actually destroying them; he's just disabling them and using time and resources to take the bags back off.
Right.
Agile dude, man. This guy's running around. And then there's another guy who's just straight cutting them up. He says he cuts them down, takes them with him, disassembles them, spreads apart all the parts of it to different trash areas to make it impossible to put back together.
Jeez.
This guy's passionate about this gig.
Now, is this guy pro-crime, Mr. Steelman?
I can only assume that he is. I mean, what other reason would you do this? Well, I mean, look. I don't know what the crime rate is in his area, right? At what point is it worthwhile to have a little bit of crime, as long as it's reasonably constrained by government, a little bit of surveillance, as long as it's reasonably restrained, in order to, find bad guys and prosecute them.
I don't know. Ask Benjamin Franklin. What did he say about it?
Probably nothing great. He was a philanderer.
Excuse me? I believe he said
When in
something.
doubt, attack the personality of the person. He liked the French girls. That's all I'm saying.
David, that I believe that's an ad hominem attack, and that is bad debate technique.
Not if you're Andrew Wilson. Anyways, so
Fair.
So people are really upset about it, and the debate is this the tactic? Right. So what did the Flock CEO have to say about it? I mean, obviously I'm doing a bad job at the steel manning. So
No, you're
hit me with the professional steel manner.
Sure.
Someone paid to do it.
Sure. Bennett, let's pull up this clip of the CEO of Flock.
Organizations like the ACLU and the EFF who take an above-board approach to fight for their point of view. And thankfully, we live in a beautifully democratic, capitalistic country where we can fight in court. And I have a lot of respect for those groups because they have reasonable debates and we follow the law. And then unfortunately, there's terroristic organizations like DFLOC, whose primary motivation is chaos. They are closer to Antifa than they are anything else. And that, I think, is unfortunate because we don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos. I like law and order. I like a society that has a bedrock of safety. So for those groups, I think it's just disappointing that they haven't chosen a more constructive mannerism to try to get what they want, which they have a right to have. But that's why we have a democratically elected process, right? Like we're not forcing Flock on anyone. Elected officials know that as a community, you want to be safe.
So DFLOC is the website that we were looking at that showed where the cameras are.
Right.
They're not taking the cameras down. Right. They're not like saying like, hey, go take these cameras down. Right. That would be destruction of property and would be illegal.
Right. And I don't know. Let's find out here if there is a broader organization called DFLOC that goes beyond just the dfloc.org website, because they may be different things.
I see. Yeah, he's probably referring to the movement, right?
Sure.
The larger.
Sure.
Yeah.
But-
yeah, because the website's just aggregating that. It's not different than Waze, right? You remember Waze?
Sure.
Yeah, it would show you, or even Google Maps will show you, there's a speed trap up here.
Right.
Right. And police push back on that. They're like, we can't prosecute when you do that. You know what I mean?
The state can't make money on you if you do that.
To enforce traffic laws, Joseph.
Oh, right. It's not about revenue at all.
Well, it's illegal. It's not supposed to be about revenue.
Okay.
It sometimes is.
Look, we have it here. DFLOC is a crowdsourced, open source mapping project, not a formal company or nonprofit, but a grassroots privacy advocacy effort. Founded in October 2014 by the guy in the video. I don't believe we watched that part of the clip. Based out of Colorado. He's a software engineer and privacy advocate who's just trying to, I think, what I feel like DFLOC is doing in the mapping context is just giving people information to act on. in some way or another. It's up to the individual how they're going to act about that.
Yes.
Right.
I think it's free speech. Absolutely.
100%.
I mean, and government transparency, right? If government has a contract with these companies that are monitoring people, people have a right to know where they are because you're paying for it. Absolutely.
But the founder of this company called DFLOC a terroristic organization.
Yeah. Well, okay. And so from the perspective, like he's using really good messaging. Here's why. Antifa, one, not popular. They destroy private property all the time and public property. They are taking the political means to violence systematically in order to stop fascism, right? So I could understand what he's saying. He's saying, like, look, if you're destroying private property, you're not doing the right thing. That's not how we do it in a law and order governed society.
And I agree with that. And I think that what people need to do is stand up and go to your city commission meeting and say, why the hell are you authorizing these things in our city? You reference the crime rate. I mean, Bozeman's a great example. We have 4 flock cameras. They're all in the Lowe's parking lot. Fuck you, Lowe's. I'm going to Home Depot forever. That aside,
that's them privately doing it though, right?
I don't actually know how that works, but it seems that way.
That's my understanding.
Maybe it's loss prevention. They're trying to prevent theft from their store.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why shouldn't they prevent loss from their store?
That's fine, but I'm not going to shop there.
You have a right not to shop there.
I'm going to vote with my dollars.
He's going to go steal from Home Depot now.
Getting that 5-finger discount, Joseph.
Hey, he'll be here all week. Actually, I don't know. He might be back in.
I might be gone for a month again.
Guatemala.
He's got a coup coming up. He'll be gone for a bit.
Cuba's looks great this time of year.
Yeah, they got some great cigars, Bennett.
They do.
Yeah. Okay. So wait. Let's step back. Quick philosophical question: flock cameras bad when government is using it to surveil you in public. Okay. If we agree on that premise, flock cameras in private areas in order to provide security for private areas, isn't that a good thing? Right? They already have security cameras in these places, but they want one in the parking lot so that if you get in a vehicle, they have a license plate number to give the police.
I think it's a question. If we're going to go philosophical, it's a question of what kind of world that you want to live in. Do you want to live in a world where morality is governed by whether or not you're being watched? Or do you want a world in which morality is governed by the cultural values of the people in a given community, right? Flock is sort of like the pharmaceutical fix to a deeper underlying systemic issue, right? If you have high crime, there's a reason for the high crime, and having cameras there so you can catch the criminals isn't going to stop the criminals from being criminals, because I mean, you can arrest all the people and you can put them all in prison, but if they're just all bad people, then what do you have?
Yeah,
bullshit.
I get that, and I'm sympathetic to the argument that deep causes are what we need to look to, and many people would then go to all kinds of things that aren't the real deep causes, like poverty or something like that. My case might be a little bit smaller. It might be that the Home Depot or Lowe's can't change the underlying social cause of crime. Because, part of the underlying social cause of crime is envy and greed, human universals. Sure. So in protection of their property, they could hire a security guard to sit out there and take down everyone's license plate who shows up, and that would be their right. Sure. Or they could have a much cheaper, more efficient system that deletes your data after 30 days or whatever their agreement is. Allegedly. But, I mean, they do have an audit process, and apparently they have, if you sign an NDA and you qualify, you could go in there and look at their stuff. Right. Apparently, that's what I've read anyway.
Sure. And I think that's a very fair point. They're trying to make their operation more efficient. They're trying to cut the losses from theft or whatever else.
Because the theft is the wrong thing, right? That's the real evil here. And property theft goes tremendously under prosecuted in the United States.
Sure, absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump
No, that's totally fine. My concern is it's not Lowe's, right? It's every big box store in Bozeman says, well, that's a great idea. We're going to cut costs. We're going to, not have to hire a person to do all this. We're going to have much better surveillance. We're going to save money. It's going to be great, right? And then what for us, right? In town, like we end up living in a surveillance state. We end up living in Minority Report because it doesn't stop with cameras, right? It doesn't stop with stationary cameras. The next thing is cameras on drones, right? And they already have them, right? Drone as first responder is a thing. It's in the zeitgeist now, and it's coming. Look out for it. So then what is the logical endpoint that we find ourselves at, and where do we draw the line? And it feels like it's one of those things where you have to draw the line early, right? Like you have to nip it in the bud before it becomes systemic, right? Before it's the Patriot Act, before it's the NSA spying on everyone, wiretapping everyone regardless, cataloging all this data, keeping it for however long they're keeping it so that they can go back and prosecute you retroactively. Or even worse, what if we were talking about, mind reading technology, right? They can read your brainwaves via Wi-Fi, okay? And now they know if you're in your house thinking, hey, I'm going to go down to Lowe's and I'm going to go steal some lumber, okay? Probably not the best thing to steal, but nevertheless, what are they going to do? Could they show up to your house? Is that okay? It's preventing crime. It's a private company doing the surveillance, perhaps. It's two private companies. It's your Wi-Fi manufacturer, it's your internet service provider, and it's Lowe's.
Yeah.
That's also private companies. Is that okay?
Sure. I would guess it would be a violation of privacy that everyone could agree on. That I wouldn't try to steel man that they're reading your thoughts.
You can say that today.
Yeah.
But you can't say that in 10 years.
Slippery slope argument that I could be totally valid, or we could never get there. The trick with slippery slope is always that, well, there are different principles maybe applying at the given time. Like, for example, it's not a crime to think bad thoughts, but it is a crime to do certain things. That's what the legal code says, and until that changes, there's not a lot they can do about it, even if they could read your thoughts, right? Although I'm anti-thought reading technology, unless I'm in control of it. And then it's using my brain to control the computer. That'd be pretty sweet. Imagine all the facts I could just get out of the computer and get that'd be sweet. I'm
Imagine your pronunciation of names.
Yeah, right? Look how much better that would be.
I think you just got everyone who listens to this podcast on board with thought reading technology.
He would be a much better podcaster right there. All right, anyways, I'm
sorry.
Yeah, I think it's a valid question. And then it goes to the other one, which is what is our reasonable expectation of privacy in public, right? So you have no reasonable privacy expectation on private property. You can express your values in different ways in order to check, like a particular property owner's expression of that limitation, right? So I don't like Lowe's because they're invasive, so I'm going to go to Home Depot, right? That is the consumer power. And I think that's totally understood that you're worried about that spreading to other places because it has advantages. It only has advantages if people are stealing a lot. They don't need flock cameras. It's all just a waste of money if people aren't stealing a lot. So are people generating this? Number one. Number two is, and do we really want to expect the same thing out of public spaces that we do in private spaces?
I mean, to your first point, are people generating this? Yeah. I mean, I think you could definitely make that argument.
We're getting the surveillance state we deserve.
Perhaps. I mean, not everyone, right? Some of us are just subject to the world that others make us live in, right? Yeah. Like you shit in the pool, everyone's got to swim in it. So,
and I often wondered this too. How much of the lack of enforcement of property crime is because police are doing a bunch of other stuff all the time too? Like police time usage is maybe the other one, like spending a lot of time on traffic enforcement, not enough on other things. But when I talk to law enforcement professionals, what they'll often say is the problem with property crime is just that we just don't have any evidence. So we don't know where they went to. We can't track where they're at. So unfortunately, in this case, we don't have anything to do to get back your stolen whatever it is.
Right. So in order to end property crime or stop property crime or even reduce it, we basically need to acquiesce to the totality of the surveillance state.
Now, I guess that would be the case, at least to reduce it, right? If you reduce it enough, at some point you catch enough, then it reduces itself in theory, right? If it makes it harder to steal, that's a good thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would guess that, especially given this, a reasonable expectation of privacy in public, is compatible with that vision to the degree that where private properties decide that they're going to implement systems that have high accountability so that you can catch property crime. Mm-hmm. But when you're in public, you're generally afforded the luxury of, not just luxury, the right of privacy. Like that seems the right balance, right? Because that way, if you're not doing anything wrong in public, you're fine, and you get to choose where you want to shop. And if you luckily have some transparency about where these cameras are, so you can express your values and what you're concerned about.
Yeah. A bigger question becomes, tied to the sort of network effect that we're already seeing with the way that the municipalities or the different agencies or jurisdictions are sharing this data, comes when you get beyond property crime. It's not just about stopping theft, right? Mm-hmm. It's about domestic terrorism, let's say, which is a term that was thrown around a lot in the last administration.
Yeah, we were terrorists like 2 seconds ago.
So what happens when,
The flock is terrorists.
what happens when going to a
The
particular
CEO.
protest is illegal,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And they can track you going there, and they can track you going to your work, and then they can, piece together, a tapestry of your whereabouts,
Right.
and your activity.
because the government has decided you're a terrorist in this case, right? Because of
Right.
your political ideology or something like that. Now, that should absolutely be illegal in the United States, unless you're Antifa, right? Because you're literally doing property crime all the time, right? If your movement is based around abolishing private property and destroying everyone else's life around you, it seems reasonable that we're going to say that's a terrorist group and we're going to go after them, as opposed to you're the Proud Boys and you are jerks, or whatever is their problem. I never understood the case. Maybe there is a good case, but I never understood a case for why these other ones,
Really?
it matters whether or not the movement designated as a group that is destroying. I mean, if it was the mafia, we'd feel the same way, right? I mean, they're doing human trafficking as a group. We should be able to designate, MS-13 as the group, and then use that in our investigation basis on, the group prosecution law. I can't remember what it's called right now, but RICO cases.
Sure. I'm going to be the autist libertarian steel man over here.
Hit me. Yeah, I love
and
it.
say that that's a collectivist error, because it's individuals that do property crime. You can't designate an organization necessarily. You can't implicate all people within an organization as criminals unless they're actually engaging individually in criminal activity. And if you can prove that, then great. But if I'm a member of whatever, Antifa, and I'm just there because I like wearing black and covering my face and feeling like part of the gang,
Sure.
but I'm just standing on the sidewalk and some guy smashes a window, am I guilty too?
Probably not. Are you funding it?
No.
Oh, then it's not a RICO case.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All right. It's really about money and the thing that allows the group to operate.
The head of the snake.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So that is ideally what you're shooting for in that case law. But I understand where you're coming from. The other side of that is, does that criticism apply to government?
Explain.
Well, government's a collective of people who are abusing people's rights, and from the libertarian perspective is doing all kinds of things that as a group matter, right? So individuals matter, but groups matter too, and in their own unique ways.
Yeah. The government doesn't have rights. Individuals have rights.
Oh, hit me. You got me.
Okay, we've gone super down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I think in a really valuable way, though. I think it's been a very interesting conversation.
Yeah. Okay, so the compilation did have pushback. I'm on the same side as our good friend of the show, Nick Fuentes.
Good one.
And you're on the side of Clint Russell. Do you want to bring up a 1A, please, Bennett? I thought this was interesting. So Nick Fuentes, and I can understand why he's going this way. Had part of his show where he was like, guys, we shouldn't be cutting down flock cameras. That isn't the way we do it. We want to change this. We got to go to the city government and go do that. In fact, I think you said that earlier too. But also, don't go after us for encouraging violence or crime, please, government. But let's watch Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, we're not doing that, to be clear.
Keep up the good work, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Chico more like Frico sent $20. Sorry if you've answered this, but what do you think about people destroying flock cameras? IMO too risky, too reckless.
It's dumb. It's dumb, and it's not going to stop it. That's not the way. They're putting them up. They put up like 1,000 of them every day. So I think that's just a LARP. Oh, well, definitely don't shoot them with the BB gun. It's like, grow up. Will you fucking grow up already? Stop the LARP.
So Clint Russell had this to say in response to Nick Fuentes. He said, couldn't disagree more. Quote, they put up 1,000 every day. Okay. And each one costs thousands. What are the profit margins? Say it's 40%. Okay, destroy 40% or so, and they will rapidly stop deploying new cameras in your area. Defend your privacy. Politicians never will.
Ooh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a debate.
Yeah, right. Well, I think it's a worthwhile one. Is this the right way to go about it? Like, should we be taking these things down, or should we focus on the public policy change? I think it's become the avenue that people see, particularly because, one, governments are terrible and they don't do their job, right? They're not getting ahead of the curve. They're constantly reacting and reacting poorly.
Right.
I think that's mostly because of the interest group problem. So when your local area or your state government is considering this, unless you have a very entrepreneurial, legislator at the state level, or very, on guard and independent person at the local level, it's very difficult to cast ahead as a legislator to regulate something that hasn't happened yet. And it's very difficult to persuade legislators about a problem that doesn't exist a problem yet. And that's a problem with our mental model legislators. Legislators often see themselves as reacting to public needs rather than being principled leaders.
Yeah.
Principled leaders, legislators, look around the bend and they say, this is where things are going. And here is the balance of power in large government government's relationship to liberty questions at stake. And that's why Montana's so different. Right. Now, we're different in part because we're a low crime state. And so there isn't just simply the demand at the same level at the police level, although I'm sure we do have a substantial missing persons problem. We get human trafficking in Montana and things like that. And we have a drug problem, like drug trafficking and things like that might be useful for these. But the deployment has been relatively constrained because Montana's laws are relatively more constrained because we started policing this, meaning we started creating accountability between local agencies and the state government in 2017. Way before anyone else. Now, this is the great legislator Daniel Zolnikov, and if you don't know him, you should be tracking his career. He's amazing. He's been a passionate defender of
tracking his career.
Yeah, man, you got to be ready with that. You got to be ready with that sound effect. Yeah, thank you. Now I'm off. I was on a roll, Ben.
Zolnikov.
Yeah,
passionate defender.
Yeah, of privacy rights. And he's been doing that for a long time. He was motivated by, Edward Snowden in 2013. So one of the reasons he ran for local legislator in the first place is to make sure Montana would be a place where privacy rights were respected. It's in our state constitution, unlike many other states. So he implemented a series of reforms, including in traffic, license plate readers way back then, way before Flock was, a thing. And basically what it says in Montana is you can only use these systems on narrow, it defines 7 areas in which you can, as a police officer, query one of these systems. We still have a data collection, and it's 90 days in Montana, not other states. Some states have it much smaller. Maybe there could be reform there. And there isn't statutory narrowness in terms of you must put in XYZ things. But it can only be used legally and with penalties to the police officer who uses it, up to criminal penalties.
Wow.
If you query the system illegally in a way that's not found. So if you FOIA request Montana and someone's abusing it, no matter who's abusing it, that is up to a criminal penalty.
Wow.
Could just be a civil fine, could just be discipline depending on the severity. But it could be up to that degree.
Wow.
So in those areas that in which you can use it are fairly robust areas. We're talking murder, theft of an automobile. The lightest one is trucking violation, because we get a lot of trucks coming through Montana. So trucking violations, if you're a trucker who's done something illegal,
skipped a way station or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And then in the other ones that you would guess, automobile theft, servicing of a warrant or an active investigation, things like that.
Yeah.
So you could strain around these, and you get a much less incentive for building them out in this kind of perverse way, perhaps.
Yeah. Which means that, if you want to stop the deployment of these in your town or your state, you do have to go through the legislative process. You got to find that civil libertarian or privacy advocate in your legislature or in your city commission and talk to them and tell them about Montana, show them that legislation.
Yeah. I mean, we have further we can go too. I mean, I still think you really need a warrant for this. So if we're talking about reforms, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of excuse. Montana has a great reporting system, but it reports to the agency head and then nothing happens, right? There's no public disclosure after that. Sunshine laws are one of the best ways we can do that. I tried to pass sunshine laws multiple times, but never could get it through the process, mostly because the police agencies were always and people were concerned legitimately, understandably, about making sure that victims and witnesses were anonymized. But the more that you have a system that shows the metadata in your state and you can do this is totally doable within our current system, right? So just imagine if your government, every time a police officer logs in, it's tracking that information of what they query. So you just imagine a Microsoft Excel sheet, a randomized set of letters and numbers that can be decrypted to be a police officer. Mm-hmm. If you then FOIA out a FOIA request, who's this police officer, government? And then if there's a case, you see a pattern of the data entries of that police officer, you can then, find out what's going on there and therefore enforce the law from the outside in. The current system kind of just relies upon the agency head having a lot of integrity and seeing that a police officer is abusing it. without the tools really to assess. So if you have a data log that's encrypted, on one side for public release, then you could have this police officer, random string of letters and numbers, did this action, which is the real action, right? Like, warrant search, and then did this query for this sort of thing. Hopefully that way, with public disclosure, you could then get a transparent, pattern of details without having to do a FOIA request for did you flock me and then put it to the government, which is how all this data that this guy's doing, that's how they get the data.
Are we not saying phrasing anymore?
Thank you, Bennett.
I was just using the term for our title episode. It's like in the movie when they say the name of the movie in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think our episode is titled "Did You Flock Me?"
I think it should be, maybe.
Tell us in the comments.
Like mother flockers.
Tell me in the comments what you think this episode should have been titled, regardless of what it is, once you see it.
So public disclosure is one of them. So sunshine laws could do a lot for that. The Right to Know Act in Montana is really robust, so you could do that here. Other states have way weaker ones. And then the other one is, I was shocked, Nevada, Georgia, a couple other states across the South have zero governing laws around this stuff altogether. So the agencies can just do whatever they want, which is absurd and crazy. So at least having a governing policy is the start. But that governing policy, what should it look like? Well, I mean, obviously use case like Montana does, but beyond that, you really need another branch of government to weigh in. The thing that the balance of powers to recognizes the incentive structures of what the different functions of government do. So your executive branch is enforcing law. So they always have the incentive to drive success as they see it, meaning maximize prosecutions. And that can look like the best motivated thing, like we're going to make sure we catch all the bad guys.
Sure.
But the problem with that is that doesn't balance with liberty well. So what you need is another check, which is usually the courts in what we call a warrant process. And you could understand that this would be a relatively simple thing. You don't have to do it for every single query. You do it based upon your case that you're investigating on. So for example, you're activating, you have a case, you're investigating a case, and you need an approval in order to access the flock cameras. You don't do it, you do it by caseload, and then you match that caseload to your data entry. So I say caseload is XYZ123. That's the case number, and then below that I have my probable cause that has been proved by the judge. So before I do that, I go to a judge like we do with all other surveillance questions, and we enter that in for a given jurisdiction, and then the judge approves that. That seems like a really reasonable thing. Then the judge doesn't go like, wait, you're really worried this person again is driving while intoxicated? You've done the same person 30 times this one. And that's how that guy wound up, using Flock to stalk his girlfriend.
The 400 times guy.
Yeah, he had to put in each time what his cause was, but he just put in bullshit causes. It was like warrant, DWI, stuff like that, repeatedly, and that's how he got caught. Is he's doing the same thing over and over again? Like, what's happening with this investigation? How much evidence do you need? So. But you want that check earlier in the process because this is so untransparent to the public. Yeah. It was only by her deciding to FOIA request herself and found herself in the DFLOC database that we were able to reveal the abuse of power. So putting the courts in early in that process would be the best way to probably constrain that.
Yeah.
Assuming you don't just get rid of them.
Right.
And where are you at? Are we going to just get rid of them, or do we want to just restrain their use? Like, what is the actual end game here? Because if we're cutting them down, that's like get rid of them all. Or if we're banning them from an area, that's a legitimate policy discussion to have.
It is. I don't know that I'm hardline one way or another on. I mean, I'm certainly not hardline for blanket the planet in surveillance. I mean, I know that I'm not for that, right? I think that that's a terrible idea. I mean, we already have enough of that, right? The U.S. military could, be looking down on you in the middle of the Bob Marshall wilderness in some of the most remote country in the world, right? And know what you're doing in real time. I don't like that. There has to be a sense of privacy in the world outside of your own home. Because what is the world if the only privacy you ever have is inside of your four walls, if that, right? Because your phone is tracking you in all the ways that it's tracking you. And, all your data is everyone owns everything about you. Everyone knows everything about you. That's a terrible way to live. And I don't want a world like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I especially see it in public spaces, right? And allowing for the pressure and anti-pressure of discriminating about when you shop. Individuals should have the right in order to surveil their own place, just like you do in your private residence. So does a commercial establishment. But when we're talking about when I'm out in public, it's too vulnerable for the abuse of government at the end of the day. And this is a way thing. You know, I could understand why people might go the other way and think about it like, well, the crime is really a problem. And I'm fortunate enough to live in a relatively low crime area. So it's just, and it seems like when major crime happens, they catch them, right? That seems like it, but that might be a selection bias issue.
Yeah.
So
well, here's a question.
I can imagine if you're in a very high crime place, you might be a little bit more tolerant for that. So it does seem to be a local question and a jurisdictional question about how much and just how we deploy them. But the private property rights of that has to be like that. That is the place where I'm most like, I feel very strong about that. But in terms of a local area, I'm very comfortable with my town having none of these.
Right. But I guess to the property rights point, you know, if you have a Ring doorbell camera, right, that is intended to, you know, for you to know when your Amazon packages show up so you can see if somebody's swiping your boxes or whatever, that's fine. But that data is owned by a company and available to the police to use as they see fit. And they could use it against you potentially if they see you, I don't know, drive into your driveway and a beer falls out and they suspect you of DUI and then they can see that there's evidence there. Like, or they catch one of your neighbors doing something on your doorbell. Like, where do your rights to surveil your own property end, particularly when it comes to the ownership of all this data by private companies that allows for warrantless access to this information? Like, to me, that is a huge question of our time as it pertains to property rights and surveillance and data privacy. Like, it's a big problem, I think.
I agree. I mean, the boundary lines in that were typically understood to be addressed at the legislative level by passing the local ordinance or passing that state law. And what I find is one of the big challenges we have is the people who are most likely to be able to be right on this issue are the least interested in passing laws. You know what I mean? Like, I was talking to a future state legislator today, and he said, well, the problem we have is we just have too many laws. And I'm like, that's not our problem, dude. We have the wrong laws. We need laws that protect people and help and balance the powers of government in order to make sure that if we're going to have a government, it needs to be constrained, but it needs to constrain itself. So that mental model, I think, is one of the bigger barriers that if we just repeal all the laws, we'll be good. That's not how it works at all, because we have evolving technology and new things happening all the time that will push against these boundaries naturally. And so it seems to me that if you wanted to ensure that space, you just write a law basically says you can't use it as evidence if it's collected privately without someone's consent.
Yeah.
Right. And that then creates the incentive.
Sure. There you go.
Or you start the company that has the anonymous encrypted,
private data. We don't own anything. We can't see it.
Yes, exactly. So they can't query it and pull from it.
We need a libertarian entrepreneur out there to create the completely encrypted version of the Ring doorbell camera.
It probably already exists. That's the other crazy thing.
There's some good brands out there.
Yeah, like if even when it does, there's often such a huge knowledge gap about what the alternatives are due to the fact that there's such a huge bias in the marketplace towards these single big companies. And usually because they're the ones who can get the contract with the big box stores because they have the reputation, the distribution, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that and it's the convenience piece too, right? Like, you want to be able to see who's at your door while you're at the grocery store. Maybe you left your wife and kids at home and you want to make sure they're all good. You get a ping. Well, because it's connected to your Wi-Fi, and it's going over a cell network, that has to go to the cloud somewhere. It has to live on someone's server. Most people don't have the knowledge or wherewithal to set up their own server and figure out all the connectivity issues and have access to that on their cell phone. So that goes and lives on Amazon servers out of convenience, right? And so it's like, until there is a convenient and user-friendly way to protect your own data, have your own server for all of your stuff, and that may eventually be a reality, and I would love to see that day come, where a lot of people, unfortunately, I think, are going to opt to give up too much data to companies that have absolutely no give a shit factor about your privacy and no real ability, I guess, legally to avoid, handing that stuff over to law enforcement or to whomever wants to have it, and every incentive to do so because they're being paid for it.
Yeah, and then lastly to that, if I decide to go with the most convenient option, the cheapest option, or whatever option it is, as a consumer, and I don't care about the privacy concerns of that, it's kind of my right. You know, like that's kind of
Sure.
how it goes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just unfortunate that, you know, in this cultural problem that we're not valuing as our culture, our heritage of privacy.
Right.
Of saying that there's a limit to that. And forcing these companies to have better policies just by our consumption behavior.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Let us know in the comments if you've made it this far. You obviously have thoughts, and you obviously want to get involved in the conversation at a deeper level. And lucky for you, we have a way for you to do that in our Discord. The link is below. Join the conversation. Join the community. It's a great time in there. We would love to have you. Thank you for listening to this episode and watching this episode of Human Reaction. On behalf of David Rand and Bennett, my name is Joe Sheehan, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in to Human Reaction. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and give us a review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you want to become a member and support the show financially, check out humanreactionpod.com.